everyone, welcome back to another episode of Triad Expeditions, and in this episode we will be just talking briefly about my experience with the SuperATV Rhino drive shaft. So I had ordered this drive shaft for my 2021 Maverick X3 Max RS Turbo RR with smart shocks. It basically gave me the ability to pick that option in the drop-down box without any mention of checking gears. So of course I didn't think I needed to. So this is not a cheap product for you to order. I ordered it to basically upgrade the OEM drive shaft, since they're notorious for twisting and bending, and they're not very well built in the first place, and the U-joints are pretty much U-joints that you'd find on a generator. So even though the U-joints that come with the SuperATV one actually look very, very similar, so I'm not sure if I'm really upgrading in the U-joint department at all there, but we will see. We'll put it to the test. It is identical in every pretty much manner as far as length. Every measurement from front to back, I've been able to compare them because I have them out. So when I got ready to put this in, I had noticed that with the billet carrier that this was basically not going to work. That the bearing that I had seen in all the install videos was not the same, that it had this collar on there, and that didn't make sense to me, because the reason why it doesn't make sense is because with the collar they have this set screw on there, and then you can't use the snap ring. So that didn't make any sense to me. And then they give you like a retaining collar, and I didn't like that idea either, because, you know, set screws and that type of thing on a smooth surface without being able to bite in there, that's just not a good thing. And then it even says that if installing onto a SuperATV prop shaft with a snap ring, do not use the retainer. Well, you can't even put the snap ring on there. So everything about this is confusing. None of it really makes any sense. I'm not really willing to install this and possibly tear something up. The instructions don't match. They're showing an OEM prop shaft there, so that doesn't really help me to know if what I'm going to do is actually going to be correct. I called customer service, you know, to basically tell them, hey, I think you sent me the wrong bearing for this setup, and they didn't want to have it at all. They just basically said, hey, we don't make it for your machine, which is a 2021. And I basically said, well, actually your billet setup there, if you buy it, doesn't say just for the OEM shaft. It basically says 2020 and up. So just, you know, bad information on the website altogether. Was on the phone with them for about an hour. I do give them credit for hearing me out as long as they did, but the end result was not good. They basically said, hey, send it back. It's going to be on your dime to send it back. We're gonna basically charge you a restocking fee to do so. So none of it was good whatsoever. You know, not to go into details too much, because, you know, I know that I wanted the bearing to go on there where I could put the snap ring on there, much like the OEM setup has. That's all I wanted. I basically said, hey, just send me a bearing that fits in your billet carrier, that fits your prop shaft that you sent me, without a collar. And they were not able to do that whatsoever. So not a good result whatsoever. I know I keep on saying that, but I'll tell you that I actually had some experience with SuperATV like 6 years ago when I had my Commander, and it was a disaster. I still don't know why I bought any more products from them. In my opinion, they're a terrible company that does very little R&D in their stuff. They throw stuff out there. I'll tell you this story real quick because it's very important, but I'd bought a trailing arms +2 and then arms up front for my Commander, my Can Am Commander, and the axles that they said that you had to buy with it to make it work, because it's obviously a longer machine at that point in time, you need longer axles to accommodate that, they would just fall out. They literally, if the suspension was in full droop, the axles would literally fall out. So that was no good. And so what I ended up having them do is send me another set of axles that I ended up selling on eBay. And then I contacted a guy out west that was building custom axles, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with this problem. I know exactly the length that you need, and I'll send them to you. And they weren't very expensive, so that was good. But I mean, they weren't cheap either. And so he knew the problem. He knew SuperATV's problem. They didn't want to hear it then. I went back and forth with their I think Lindsay, I think their current VP. I'm not sure on that, but that's what I've been told. Went back and forth. They finally caved and sent me 2 new axles, so that way I could at least get some money towards the ones that I was having built by this guy, custom built. And yeah, so that was my experience. And then we were on the trail, and I had replaced the tie rods with what I thought was an upgrade, and we were on Chicken Corners out in Moab, and they literally pulled right out of the threads. The threads were too shallow for the billet tie rods, and they literally pulled right out and almost left us stranded. But we happened to have the OEM ones with us. I just looked at those when I installed them. I thought, wow, I don't think those are going to work out, and sure enough, they didn't. We ran into them at the Rally of the Rocks with their SuperATV semi truck there. Told them exactly what was happening. They kind of weren't really wanting to do anything about it, which was kind of bogus because they're standing right there in front of me, and they didn't have any spares. Luckily, we were able to limp along, and we ended up having to cut our trip short a little bit as far as using our ATV because we weren't willing to chance it. So that was a big bummer. Really, when we got back, they did send us some new ones, and they were cut differently, so they had fixed it. But just another example of their piss poor R&D and quality assurance and everything else. So yeah. So anyways, this was a rant about a bad experience. What I'm actually doing is I'm gonna hopefully I ordered a Sandcraft carrier bearing, and I'm gonna have success with that. Hopefully between using the SuperATV axles, because the Sandcraft setup is $1,100 for the whole setup, a little bit more than I want to spend right now. Their carrier bearing is a little over $200, but SuperATV's carrier bearing that I thought I could maybe trick them into sending me, I told them, I said, just send me the one without the carrier bearing, without the collar on there, because in your inventory. And yeah, they didn't want to do it whatsoever. So I ended up having to spend another $260 for the Sandcraft one. We'll see how that works out. There'll be more videos about this in the future. I'm sure my thought is that because this drive shaft is exactly the same as OEM, and Sandcraft advertises that you can use it with OEM, that it's not going to be a problem. The joints, I'm looking at the joints now, they are bigger, so that's good. They should hold up on the SuperATV, famous last words, right? So yeah, this is something that you guys will see. Again, I definitely will continue to talk about this. As you can tell, I'm not happy at all that I literally have been pretty much ripped off for an inferior product, and they don't want to stand behind it. So yeah, that's my experience. Definitely feel free to comment below if you guys have any experience with SuperATV. It will be an integral part of the show occasionally, of mentioning of not letting friends buy SuperATV parts. I am going based on 2 really bad experiences, and basically I thought maybe they had grown as a company. They are located in Indiana, which is right next to us here in Ohio. And I thought, well, I'll give them another try. I do have one of their bumpers that's over there across. That is their bumper. The reason why I bought their bumper over other bumpers is because of the kind of like the bash plate that's there, and because Blown Budget. It's a YouTube channel, Blown Budget. I don't know the name of it, but anyways, I think it's Blown Budget something, ATV. They basically show the Warren winch that I bought, the heavy duty, the big one, the 4500 or whatever it is. You'll see that in a future video, fitting in this, and it was really the only one that said that would fit, or at least I could get reference that would fit in, or fit that big of a winch. So Yeah, that's why I bought that. Hopefully that's not a complete pile, because everything else that I've ever bought from them has pretty much been a pile. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for watching. I had to do this video. I appreciate. Sorry that it wasn't more productive, but I guarantee you that the rest of the videos going forward will probably be good. If not, just warning you of products to stay away from. I will real quick in this video give you a quick preview. I wanted to show you the end result. I'm not going to talk about it much, but we did put the rear bumper on, and also the CT Raceworks lower arms, and also the Assault Industries brackets, and I'll talk about that in the next video. That will be the rear suspension length or strengthening video. So, all right, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell to make sure to be notified of our videos that are coming out in the future. Thanks everyone. Be safe.